Chapter 1. 117. Summer, 1977. Part 4. The rest of the week in Cornwall passed in complete bliss as far as Remus and Sirius were concerned. They spent long hot days on the beach and hillsides, wandering through quaint little villages, exploring caves and getting tipsy in pub gardens. They dined exclusively on pasties, fish and chips and ice cream, and at night, the nights were best of all. During the day, if the others were around, they would toss a ball back and forth across the sand, or Remus would consent to paddle in the sea a little jeans rolled up and long-sleeved shirt still firmly on. If it was just the two of them, then he might roll the sleeves up to his elbows, exposing old scars, and Sirius would become Padfoot and chase sticks or his own tail, and they often got to be alone because everyone else seemed to want to keep sneaking off. Lily and James were the worst. When they weren't bickering, they were snogging, gratuitously and at length.
"You're supposed to be prefects!"
Mary yelled at them after the third night, finding them practically horizontal in front of the campfire.
"Oh, as if I haven't caught you 100 times on my rounds."
Lily laughed, getting up and straightening her clothes nonetheless.
"And you, Black, so you can stop leering."
What?
Sirius blinked innocently. He was carrying back the bowl of washing up from the shower block. Remus had been pretty amazed by that. Sirius had volunteered to do the dishes every night so far. "I quite like doing it the Muggle way," he had confided secretively. "Mother used to make us do the house elf's work as a punishment sometimes, but I just found it relaxing, to be honest."
Don't draw me into your sordid escapades,
Sirius was saying, prudishly, setting down the tub.
I've been a perfect gentleman all holiday.
"I'm not convinced you haven't been sneaking off with some Muggle girl in the village,"
Marlene said. She was lying stretched out on a towel in her underwear, sunbathing. Her body was very long and very pale.
How dare you?
Sirius flicked her with the damp tea towel, making her yelp and crease up.
I've been tucked up in bed early every night, haven't I, Mooney?
Remus choked on the crackers he'd been nibbling on and had to be slapped on the back by James a few times before he recovered. "You'll pay for that later, Black," he glared at Sirius, eyes watering. Once James had calmed down about the Lily Evans event, as Sirius was calling it, behind his back, enough to think straight, he'd been surprised that Sirius and Remus were now sharing a tent, and suspicious, for all the wrong reasons.
"You're not going to start fighting again, you two. You know you only wind each other up in close proximity."
Right you are, Prong,
Sirius said brightly.
You bunk in with Mooney, and I'll share with Evans.
That put an end to that line of questioning, but not to James's sudden overprotectiveness of Remus. It was nice, certainly nothing to whinge about, but a bit uncomfortable. Remus had never had any kind of big brother figure, unless you counted Stee or Craig, who had taught him to steal and drink and throw a proper punch. But James now seemed determined to do his clumsy, kind-hearted best. Midway through the week, Remus was a little surprised that no one had so much as mentioned the confession he had made on the first night. Not that he wanted anyone to make a fuss or say anything sly or backhanded, but still, nothing at all? He brought it up with Sirius in a quiet moment, and he'd laughed.
Well, if Prongs gave everyone else that bloody speech, I'm not surprised.
Speech?
Yeah, he pulled me aside and told me if I started treating you any differently, he'd thump me. Probably didn't say that to the girls. Maybe Lily did them.
Sirius stretched out doggishly, lying on his front. They were lounging on the beach, alone, on a quiet stretch of sand, which so far no one else had discovered. Sirius was in his swimming trunks, and Remus was taking the opportunity to stare at him as much as he liked, and as brazenly as he liked. Every now and then, he gathered a handful of silky yellow sand and poured it over Sirius's skin, just to watch the grains slide like water over the muscles of his back.
"You're having me on,"
Remus said lazily, not believing Sirius.
Wish I was. I swear, it was so hard not to laugh in his face and just tell him everything.
He rolled over, brushing the sand away carelessly.
I'm going to have to go and wash off in a minute, if you keep doing that.
"That's the idea."
Remus smirked. Sirius in the sea was his new favourite thing to look at. Remus still didn't really believe him, until the very last day of the holiday. They were all trying to pack up the tents, which didn't seem to want to fit back into the bags they'd arrived in, and Remus had ended up taking over, because Peter, Sirius and James didn't seem to understand the concept of instructions. The girls had deconstructed their own camp in less than an hour, and it was getting a bit shameful.
"Right. That peg needs to come out first, and there's a sort of top sheet we need to remove, otherwise everything gets tangled up,"
Remus said, scratching his head. James and Sirius did this successfully and began folding up the brown canvas.
"What would we do without you, Mooney?"
James chuckled.
Yeah.
Peter said from the ground, where he was collecting pegs.
Who'd have thought you'd be good at all this stuff?
Well, I have always been the sensible one.
Remus murmured, not really paying it any mind, skimming the next few steps in the leaflet. Then he realised it had gone quiet, and James was standing over Peter.
What do you mean, this stuff?
Peter looked up, confused, and rubbed his hands together.
You know, outdoorsy stuff, blokey stuff. I didn't mean...
Pete, a word.
James said, his voice weirdly hard and flat, channeling Euphemia Potter in a stern mood. He marched off towards the beach, Peter following nervously behind, still wringing his hands.
Blokey stuff.
Sirius muttered, though he looked anxious and pale too.
What was that all about?
Remus asked, going over to pick up the pegs Peter had put down. Sirius shook his head, and didn't speak again until Peter and James returned, Peter looking very shaken. Remus wished he could have said something, but he felt like he might only make the problem worse. When it came time to say goodbye, nobody wanted to leave. Remus found himself staring glumly down at the 4 yellow squares of grass where their tents had been, while James and Lily clung to each other, saying their goodbyes.
You going back to Essex, Remus?
Mary asked cheerfully.
Staying with the Potters for a bit.
Remus replied, trying to perk up.
Lucky.
Mary said,
I've got to go back to Croydon. Marlene invited me to stay, but Mum says she doesn't see enough of me as it is.
That's nice.
Remus smiled.
It's nice to be missed.
Peter and Dorcas left first, heading up to the main road to find a secluded spot to hail the night bus. Remus waved them off, and everything seemed fine, but that might just have been James's presence. The girls apparated, once Lily finally let go of James, promising to visit before the summer was over, promising to write, making James promise to telephone. She hugged Remus, and then, perhaps just in a moment of blind happiness, Sirius too. James, Remus and Sirius apparated back to the Potters with somewhat more success than the first time. Remus ended up in the back garden, somehow, Sirius somewhere in the village, but Mrs. Potter was thrilled to see them all the same and decided they all needed some proper food at once.
Should we get in touch with the home for you, Remus?
Mr. Potter asked, casually over dinner.
You're not pulling another vanishing act, are you? Can't have the Muggle police called again.
Oh, no,
Remus stammered over his boiled potatoes. What could he say to stop them asking? What would buy a bit more time? Sirius kicked him underneath the table and gave him a look. Go on, Mooney, it said. Tell the truth. Remus looked at Mr. Potter.
Actually, now I'm 17. There isn't a place for me at St. Edmund's.
Oh, good.
Mrs. Potter smiled benignly.
We've got you all summer then, wonderful.
As easy as that.
I told you.
Sirius whispered as he slid into Remus's bed after midnight.
The Potters love taking in strays.
Should you be here?
Remus whispered back anxiously.
What about James?
Snoring his head off. I could hear him through the wall.
Remus didn't press it further. After all, he wanted Sirius there. It felt funny, lying alone in a big double bed after a week spent squished up in a tent. Having another body close by was comforting. Having Sirius's body close by was even better.
Well done for telling them.
Sirius said quietly, holding Remus's hand under the covers. He did that often, and only in bed, in the dark. Remus didn't mind.
Yeah, I'm just telling everyone everything this week.
Remus laughed.
Nothing wrong with asking for help, Mooney. People like helping their friends.
I know.
Remus kissed the top of Sirius's head, one of the many privileges now permitted to him. Sirius liked to sleep hidden under the covers, like a hibernating creature. It made him seem smaller than he was, and made Remus feel protective. Another thing that was okay to feel now.
Sirius? That thing Wormtail said, did it really upset you?
He felt Sirius tense against him, and instantly wished he hadn't brought it up. He tried to cover his tracks.
You know, Pete, he's a bit of an idiot sometimes, but he's just thick, not spiteful. He'll get used to it. Get used to me. Next time he needs his homework done, it won't matter.
I've heard stuff like that before, that's all.
Sirius said, very low, so that Remus, who usually had perfect hearing, better than perfect, had to listen closely.
About being a man. You know the sort of thing.
From your mother?
Sirius didn't speak, but his head moved slightly, and Remus took it for a nod. We aren't talking about mothers, Remus had to remind himself. He just squeezed Sirius's hand and said the only thing he could think of.
Well then, you know it was all bollocks.
Saturday, July 30th, 1977. James Potter was not as clever as Remus had given him credit for. They had been back from Cornwall for a fortnight. James had telephoned Lily from the phone box at the end of the road exactly 14 times, and exactly 14 times Remus had to accompany James to the phone box, put the coins in the slot, dial the number for him, and show him how to hang up at the end. The phone calls lasted about an hour usually, leaving Sirius and Remus to sit outside on the brick wall, smoking. Occasionally they walked up and down the high street, but mostly they just waited for James to finish.
Bloody idiot.
Remus sighed as he exited the booth the 14th time.
How hard is it to remember a few simple steps? He did Muggle studies, don't they explain this stuff?
Oh, he gets too excited to remember anything.
Sirius laughed.
Have some sympathy for the lovesick fool.
No, I will be joyless and miserable forever.
Remus grumbled, fumbling with his cigarette lighter.
Oh, good. I love it when you're all dark and moody.
Fuck off.
Ooh, yeah. Now call me a stupid prat. That really gets me going.
Sirius teased, cigarette between his teeth, embers glowing in his eyes. Remus shoved him so that he stumbled off the wall, laughing.
You are being a stupid prat.
Only for you.
Sirius stubbed out his cigarette. There was a low, dark rumbling in the far distance, and Sirius's whole face lit up. He grabbed Remus's arm.
Look, here it comes, right on time.
Remus rolled his eyes. Sirius had another reason to indulge James. Every evening, while they waited for the lovebirds to finish their phone call, a miraculous thing happened, in Sirius's eyes anyway. A motorbike drove through the village, probably some aging hippie on his way home from his boring commuter job, Remus thought petulantly. It was a Triumph Bonneville T120. Remus hated that he knew this, but after they'd seen it the first time Sirius had dragged them to the newsagents, to buy every motorcyclist magazine he could find until they had identified the model, with a cherry-red tank, every inch of chrome polished to a gleaming silver. Sirius was madly in love. Remus was madly jealous. Once the bike had passed, Sirius gave a sigh of satisfaction, then climbed back onto the wall and watched Remus for a while. He did that a lot now. Remus had to learn not to mind too much, being scrutinized. Sirius cocked his head.
Is it the moon? Making you grumpy?
Probably.
Remus shrugged.
Usually makes me restless.
Yeah, I noticed. Last night.
Sirius winked.
Oh my God, shut up, obnoxious prick.
Sirius grinned and poked out his sharp pink tongue. Remus was nervous about the moon. It would be his first full moon not spent at either Hogwarts or St. Edmunds, though presumably there had been another full moon, once, long ago, with his mother. Mr. Potter had taken him aside, after it was agreed Remus would be staying for the rest of the summer, and explained their plan of action. Not that it mattered much to Remus. A locked room was a locked room. This time it was the attic, and Moody had offered to stand guard outside, ensuring that the family would be safe. Mr. and Mrs. Potter, not to mention James and Sirius, had repeatedly reassured Remus that they weren't concerned in the slightest, and that he oughtn't to worry either. But of course he did anyway. Sirius wanted to go in with him, so did James, but James at least had enough common sense to realize it wouldn't be possible. No one was going to get anything past Moody, who had a new, creepy eye, electric blue, and horribly enchanted.
Tackled werewolves before,
he said gruffly, as Remus was led up the ladder to the attic.
Always got a good result. Minimal casualties.
This did not make Remus feel better, but he wasn't sure if it was supposed to. It was a bad night. Maybe it was Moody's presence. Maybe the wolf didn't like heights. Maybe it could smell its usual playmates, Prongs and Padfoot, and felt lonely. Maybe the wolf just hated Remus. Who knew? Either way, when he woke, he found he'd ripped the room apart, torn at the blinds, and scratched the floorboards. In the end, the wolf had chewed its own paws out of frustration. Hands bleeding, the skin all grazed away, Remus lay in the dark, his heart pounding, waiting for the pain to subside, or for someone to come and help him, whichever came first. Mrs. Potter patched him up, and did a good job, but he still struggled to hold his wand for a few days, while the skin grew back. He couldn't hold a broom handle either, so had to just watch, while Peter, Sirius and James practiced, like old times. Remus found other ways to occupy himself. He'd got hold of a copy of the telephone book and spent more time than was probably healthy looking up every Jenkins in Bristol. There were lots of them, but no hopes. Hopeless. It didn't matter, he tried to tell himself. He'd got on all right for 12 years without her.
Tell me a secret.
Sirius would whisper, late at night. Every night, he came to Remus.
Tell me something no one knows.
And Remus would tell him because it made Sirius happy, and that was a very worthwhile pursuit. In fact, Remus was realizing making Sirius happy might be the only thing worth doing for the rest of his life.
I'm the one who told Philomena Pettigrew to go to America.
You never?
Yep, in the bathroom on Christmas Eve.
Sly bastard. How'd you get girls falling all over each other to talk to you, eh? What's your secret?
Maybe they trust me because they know I'm not trying to get off with them.
An intriguing thought. Tell me another secret.
I don't know. I've told you everything.
Everything that wouldn't hurt you, he added silently.
You haven't.
Sirius said, his lips now against Remus's, as he crawled on top of him, hands sliding up under Remus's nightshirt. He flicked his tongue along Remus's bottom lip.
I'm going to know everything about you one day, I promise.
Remus kissed him deeply, believing every word.